Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard, and thank you for joining us in this day. And today we're going to talk about this awesome topic that I like a lot. We're going to talk about how we can dissect something related about the threat research, malware analysis, malware hunting, and other topics related to this, right? So let me share my screen with you here. As you can see here, this is my contact on social media. You can find me here on Twitter, Filipi PIRES, and my GitHub here, Filipi86, where you can find some projects that I've been working, some articles that have been published, you can find there. And my webpage here, filipipires.com, we can find there some talks in Portuguese language, in English, and in Spanish as well, right? And my LinkedIn, if you'd like to send them a message, I'm totally available to talk with you, right? So let's start our presentation today. And let me introduce myself before, and I'm security researcher at Senha Segura. Senha Segura, it's a global company responsible to provide some PAN solution. PAN, it's acronym of the Privileged Access Management, right? And I'm security researcher in this company. I'm advocate of this awesome project, Hack is Not a Crime. The idea behind of this project is to talk more about this concept calling hacking or the hacker. It's basically this project, we talk about how you can use your creative mind and how you can, when you look in something and you can use in this creative mind, how you can use in your creative, your lifestyle when you're looking for some apps, some applications, some software. It's when you talk about, for example, some theft of intellectual property, or maybe, ransomware attack is not a hacker, it's a cyber criminal, right? So the idea behind of this project, it's American project, and I'm advocate talking from Brazil here, by the way, and we have many others advocates around the world, right? So I'm a coordinator and part of the organization team, the staff team from the DEFCON groups here in São Paulo. And by the way, I'm talking in this moment from São Paulo here, and I'm structure of the HackerSec. HackerSec is a Brazilian company responsible to provide some trainings about defensive security, defensive security. I'm structure of the malware analysis course there in Portuguese language in this case. And I'm a structurer and writer and reviewer of those 3 magazines in Europe, right? And by the way, in Pentest Magazine, I have a course of malware attack with the Q-chain methodology, right? So just some information about me. And first of all, I would like to explain, or I would like to put all those people on the same page. And I would like to explain more about what is exactly a threat. It's a simple definition. It's not a definition from Filipi. It's according to this specifically ISO, right? So in this case, a threat is a potential cause an incident, right? So something is a potential, right? That this specifically potential incident maybe or may cause harm to the system or organization. But what kind of incident or what kind of cause for it in the system? In this case, for example, in a software attack, remember, it's from a cyber criminal or attacker or a threat actor, not a hacker, okay? Or maybe theft of intellectual property, maybe identity theft, or maybe sabotage or information extortion are example of the information security threat. It's just important, it's very important to clarify that, because first of all, when you talk about the malware or a PDF malicious, we have a sample, you have a document. You don't know if it's malicious or not. You need to investigate that. But before to investigate, we need to find the possible threat. Remember that, the potential threat, okay? So nice. So this is the simple flow that I would like to present you, because first of all, we have an artifact, we have a sample, right? And this is specifically sample. We need to identify that if it's malware and malicious software, or it is maldoc, malicious document. After, when you discover that, you can apply the best methodology, right? You can use in this possible investigation or analysis. You can use in the statistical analysis or maybe dynamic analysis, right? So we can use in both methodology, or you can choose each one. Maybe you are to think, where is exactly reverse engineering, Filipi? Reverse engineering is a part of the technique using this both methodology, right? Because when you're using statistical analysis, I'll explain more about that. You can use in the reverse engineering, and you can use in reverse engineer inside of this dynamic analysis. One of my suggestions when you perform some analysis is you can register all those things. Why is important you register all those things? Because when you register that, you can improve your knowledge, because you can understand all those steps used by the attacker. And when you discover that, you can take some actions. One of these actions is create some report. When you write this report, you can present that to your manager, you can present this to your tech lead or your coordinate. Why you have, or why you should present this to your manager? Because you can improve your defenses mechanisms, because you understand what is exactly the path executing by the attacker, okay? And when you discover that, you can understand what is exactly the evasion technique used by the attacker, or maybe what kind of bypass the attacker using your environment. So because of that, you can improve your defenses mechanism. And if you have some cyber threat intelligence, you can create this intelligence, you can you can bring this information and can deliver this to your cyber threat intelligence team, or you can build it. It's very nice. Even if your company is bigger or small, you can create that, because you can using many different tools to help you to automatize the process, but you can work more proactively against threats, against others' attack, right? And of course, we need to have this strengthening cyber resilience, because why? Not because why, but why you need to have these characteristics, because the threats are changing all the time. So because of that, you need to work more proactively, right? But it's a simple flow about that. Okay, Filipi, what is exactly statistical analysis? Statistical analysis usually is the first step when you executing something or something about the malware studies, right? Why this is the first step? Because this process describes exactly this idea, or this methodology describe the process of analyzing all the program code. I mean, you have some code and you understand what kind of DLL you have inside of your code or inside of the binary, what kind of DLL are called by this specific binary, and what kind of function is important for this specific DLL inside of the system operation. So in this exactly analysis, you doesn't run at this time the binary. Because of that, it's more safe, right? So because of that, this is the first step, because you can run some commands, you can understand about the results, and after that, you can understand about the techniques used by the attack. Of course, you can use many tools to help you, but this is usually the process when you using this kind of methodology. On the other hand, you have a dynamic analysis. Dynamic analysis, a methodology is closely based on behavior. Basically, it's the interactions that the malware, or exactly the sample, the artifact that you have has when it's executed itself inside of the environment. I mean, this methodology also known like a runtime analysis. So you have two different approaches. One, it's a runtime analysis, dynamic analysis, and statistical analysis, you doesn't run the binary, okay? It's a two different approach. That's simple definition. Of course, you can easily automate this process using one very nice concept called sandbox. What is sandbox, Filipi? Sandbox, basically, it's a virtual machine, but inside of this specific virtual machine, you need to have the engines inside of that. And these engines are responsible to identify the behavior of the specifically malware that you are running inside of that. Not only virtual machine. If you have the virtual machine and you can run the malware inside of that, it's just a simple virtual machine. You need to have the engine inside of that to understand what is the behavior and the results about after the execution inside of this specific virtual machine. Okay, nice. So let me explain more something practical about the statistical analysis. Okay, let me share my screen here again, my virtual machine with you here. Okay, here, yes, here it's my virtual machine. I have here my browser, as you can see here, and I have here some files here. And remember, the first step is the identification step, okay? And this is very important. So I have here more than one file, and I don't know if it's malicious. So first I need to understand what kind of file I have here. So I will be using the file command. I have here the Amazon docs, or it's a Microsoft Word, and I have here another, my friend Bill, and as you can see here, Bill, it's a PDF document, and I have another here, it's a malware hunting, that is the malware-hunting.python, right? It's a ASCII text, maybe it's a Python, let me check here, Python 3, right? Python 3, and malware, it's a recommendation labs tool. Yeah, it's a simple Python script, okay? So this is the first command that you can use. And of course, you can use in more than one to identify, but just to identify, let's clarify, it's very important to understand those bases behind of this analysis, right? Because usually when I talk with many different people in different conference, And many times the people ask me about, I need to improve my reverse engineering, I need to improve my knowledge in assembly. But when I made some questions, for example, about some basis about how the file works, what kind of information the file using to check about this specific file. So how the file works to identify that, what kind of type of it's a type of file, okay, but how is this kind of, or how these tools exactly work inside of the system operation? It's a very important to understand, right? And because of that, I download this, before to show you the source code about the file, I would like to explain more about what is exactly file. Determine a file type. Okay, Filipi, I know that, but here you can find some information. So basically, when you execute the file search for something inside of the binary. What is exactly this information? You know what is exactly this information? I always made these questions in many conferences, and this is a simple question. What is the information that file using to find the file type inside of the binary? This is very important. And here in the manual, we have the explanation. Of course, first we have the information about the type and how the file understand about the data, about the binary. But here they continue to explain about the file system, how this file testing in the background, how they executing something in the system calls, how is some symbols, and here they explain about some magic tests are used. So here you can understand about something about the magic tests, right? And here the file manual explain about some specifically binary. In this case, it's an ELF binary. We don't have a time to explain all the details, but I have another talks that I explain about the structure of this specifically ELF file. It's very interesting, right? But here is the answer about what file using to identify the file. Basically, these files or the binary have a magic number. So when you execute the file command or the binary file the binary file, they try and find a magic number inside of the binary. This is the key. Where is the place that you can find this magic number? Is stored in a particular place near at the beginning. So all those binary has a magic number, and this magic number is very important to identify the file. Let me explain in details, right? I have here, for example, as I mentioned, Python 3 malware hunting. This is a simple Python file, right? But if I try read here, take a look at that. It's very simple. Take a look at the difference. I will put in here 3 double quotes. I will save here, as you can see, and I will check once again, file malware. Take a look what happened now. Now I have an ASCII, but take a look what changed here. It's a Python script now. If you see here, before it's just a ASCII text, but now it's a Python script. Why? Because something are changing. Let me change once again. I will cut this and I will put in %PDF because this is our file and this is our presentation about the topics about the PDF, right? And I will check what happened now. Now I have a PDF document. Why? Because I manipulated the magic number inside of this specific file. You see? So if I try to read this specifically, I can see here the print, basically the strings that I will print using PIRES script, but here is the magic number, right? So take a look at this. If I put here PDF ID, it's a simple tool, and I will put in here build. Take a look what I found here in the beginning. PDF header. This is the information about the PDF header, the structure of the PDF. Take a look at that. %PDF. Basically, this is the specifically version supported by this PDF. So here, as you can see, this is the magic number of the PDF. So let me check another file here in sample.pdf. Let's check here if it's a PDF. It's a PDF document. Okay, let's put in here PDF ID and sample PDF. You see, you have many others informations and %PDF. Let me check here PDF ID and malware hunting.python. Take a look at that. Wow, it's a PDF. You see, this is specifically tools provided from the Stevens to identify some informations about this specific file. And you remember, this is a text file. It's a Python script. Take a look at this. This is specifically tools. You know, let's check here, PDF ID. Let's see if we have some no manual entry for PDF ID. Maybe I have here PDF ID -H. Let's check if you have some manual here. Recursion, plugin 0, select. You don't have manual here in this specifically, because sometimes we have in the tools from DJ Stevens, we have some flag or parameter to set to read the manual, but I don't have in this case. Okay, but anyway, no worries about that. It's a simple tool to perform some scanning. Well, this is the explanation about that. So, okay, being single file, several files, we can execute this to test about the PDF file. Basically, this is to execute, to understand, to perform some scanning inside of this PDF. So, and as you can see here, take a look at that. I have the PDF ID. I have these informations. Of course, the tool didn't find any informations about this specific file because we don't have any other informations inside of this PDF, but I manipulate the PDF ID. Because of that, the tools works has this specific, like this file was a PDF, right? Let me show you and clarify once again this specifically thing. Let me cut this and save that. Let me using once again PDF ID, and I put here the malware, and take a look at that. It's not a PDF document. You see how the difference and how important it is you understand about the magic number inside of the file. It's very important. Because of that, I download basically this source code from the file just to show you. This is the databases, right? Responsible. Basically, this is the databases responsible for file works inside of the system operation. Basically, this is information is compiled inside of the system operation, of course. And take a look some rules about the JavaScript. As you can see here, being Node.js. So if I put here in the beginning of that file, let me copy this. The last time, let's just nano and root malware and malware hunting. Okay, let me paste here, and I will save. And take a look what happened now. Root malware and malware hunting doc. Take a look what happened now. And now I have a Node.js script. You see how important. So if I see here in the elf, for example, in this case, the elf, we have many other rules that you can find here in this specifically binary, as you can see here. So it's very important you understand how the magic number works. So here you have the structure of the ELF PDF, right? And because of that, it's very important you understand how the tool works. This is important, the identification step, because when you perform some investigations, for example, take a look at how important it is. Let me return here. You receive a file to investigate. Remember that. And if you using this extension to base your analysis, maybe you have some problem, as I mentioned here in this case, and this is specifically a file called malware hunting.python, because in this case now it's not a Python, it's a Node.js, right? So how you see how important is you understand the structure of the PDF, right? So let me return the presentations here, and inside of a PDF, we have the physical and logical structure, right? So first, in general, we have a PDF document. We have 4 parts, okay? The header, as I show you using PDF ID, the body, and the cross-reference table or X table, and a trailer. By the way, if you see here, I have here very nice, and this specifically blog, DJ Stevens. This is a very nice thread researcher, right? You can find here more information about the PDF and how you can manipulate that. And by the way, this presentation is based on this specifically structure. As you can see, you have more than one information, how it works, the cross-reference table, the trailer, the main parts, as you can see here, and very, very nice blog, not only to understand more about the PDF, but you can see here more other very interesting topics. Let me show you more here to see. okay, about, for example, the Dissecting suite. It's very nice because I will using during this investigation. For example, you can see here the GitHub repository or the software if you'd like to use it, for example, in the Windows machine, because this is the suite basically to use in the Windows machine. But if you see here, you have more than one these tools. PDF ID, you can using this specifically in the Linux platform. PDF ID, for example, you can use here. PDF ID-H. You can use, for example, PDF-parser. It's another tool inside of this specifically package, right? It's another tool from the J. Stevens, and I will be using this during this presentation. Okay, so we have 4 parts, as I show you here. So the header, body, cross-reference table, and trailer. Basically, it's defined this way. We have the header with the version of the version number of the PDF, as I show you during this some execution commands here. We have the body, we have a page, an image, and font, and we have a cross-reference table. And a specific case in cross-reference table is the locations of the object, because when you have the PDF, you have the body, but you have the many objects inside of the PDF. Okay, so these objects, if in the file, is locations, but for random access. So you have, for example, object 1 referring object 2. You have the main object, the root main object, and you have another child for this specifically object, right? So because of that, it's access or referring others. And for example, root file in object 1 referring object 2 and 3, and object 2 referring, for example, object 7 and 8, and you can spear, I think it's spear. I don't remember exactly the word in English, but you can, explore more than all those information inside of the PDF, right? And trailer is locations of the certain object in the body, and locations of the cross-reference table in this specific, is the reference specific in the file. So let me show you this demo because we don't have time to executing in real life, but here I recorded that. Basically, I recorded this specific video. I have here the CV. I received one CV. Basically, it's a resume, okay, or curriculum, whatever. Let's suppose that you receive this in your company if you have some HR team. So first of all, I executing the PDF ID. Remember to identify if it's exactly a PDF. Take a look at that. In this specific file, we have a 15 object, and we have 2 extremes. And we have, take a look at this, 5 JavaScript, referring to some JavaScript. Another information that you have here is an open actions and OA8. Here is 2 very important information that I would like to share with you. When you have some this specific open action inside of your PDF, it means that the only actions that the users needs to do is to click once a time inside. Just click once in the PDF, right? So let's suppose that you are a user. You receive a PDF, a CV, okay, and you click to open this PDF. This is the actions performed by the HR team or the talent acquisition team when receives some CV. You agree, right? Because this is the day. Let's suppose another, for example, if you work in a financial team, you receive many invoices per day, or you need to send the invoice and you receive the invoice. So when you receive this invoice, you need to click to open this invoice. This is the only action need, because when you have these functions, open action, it means when the user click in this open action, something running in the background. Basically, this running automatically. This is the simple functions using by the attacker, right? So take a look at that. We have here 15 objects, and we have an open action. So something automatically happen inside of that, right? And we have 2 streaming. What is exactly streaming? Streaming usually is a part when you can compress something and you can put in this inside of the PDF. So when you have many streams inside of the PDF, this is a special place usually used by the attacker to put something malicious. Remember, it's not a malicious actions, but this is a part of it's a part important that you need to investigate more, because usually the attacker likes to use in this streaming to put in something malicious, okay? And of course, we have other functions here, but in this case, it's encrypt. We need to have the password to encrypt these informations. But for my side here, in my opinion, we have a 5 JavaScript. Why do you have have a JavaScript in some PDF? It's totally malicious, I don't know if you agree or not, but for my side, it's totally suspicious, okay? So let's continue to see or to investigate more about that. So we're using here another tool, PDF parser. Remember, I explained this is a package from the DDA Stevens, okay? And I can set these tools to investigate or to search more things, to try filtering something or to search for others information. So in this case, I will using here -s to confirm this specifically JavaScript that I show you in the PDF ID. Take a look how many JavaScript I find here. Object 1, Object 7, and Object 12. 3 specifically JavaScript, right? And I will put here now JS. Remember, this is another 2 PDF parsers. I have here the 12 and Object 1, so two more. Remember, when I execute, for example, PDF ID, I found 5. So here is the specifically, right? So probably when DDA Steven create these tools, he analyzed all those strings inside of the PDF, and after that, he created this specifically. The second is I will using another flag or command is the -w, as you can see here. What kind of information would you like to see? The run output for that data and filters inside of this specifically PDF, as you can see here. So we're executing this PDF and -parser, -w, PDF, and pipe-less. So this is the explanation. First, we have an object 1. Remember, root file and another reference. So here we have that it's a kind of tree, right? Because I have here in the center object 1 and other 6 object or child object inside of this main, as you can see here, object 1 and referring object 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and until 7, as you can see here, right? And take a look more information. So remember, we have here 15 objects. And take a look about the open actions. We have something linked with the open actions. What is the functions? The function linked is a some JavaScript. Remember what is the open action functions? So the user received the resume and the user will open this file. Click once and we will open the file. After that, in the background, automatically will be executed a JavaScript, right? It's a critical potential suspicious behavior, and for my side, for my opinion, of course, and this is the point here. Okay, so let's continue to see other objects. Remember, 15 object. Object 2, clear. Object 3, made clear. Object 4, remember the 3 others 2 reference, object 80 and 90, above the object 4. Let's continue. Object 6 and 7 other 3 here, object 10 other referencing, and inside of this reference 10 we have a JavaScript. Object 8, it's more a font image. Object 9 other reference. Object 4 and others 80 and 11 in this case, but we have more 15, right? So let's see here, object 10, object 12, referring to object 12. And here, take a look, the first is streaming. In this case, they have this, this flat decode. Basically, something is encoded inside of that. So we need to decode this information. And here is, as you can see here, you see the left. The left is 36. It's a small, so it's not too big, but we need to investigate maybe. Object 12 referring object 13 that you have JavaScript. But so we have a JavaScript inside of the object 13. But when you will look the object 13, take a look what we see here, containing streaming. We cannot see the JavaScript, just see the streaming. And we have here the flat decode once again, and the left is bigger when you compare to another, right? So if you have the JavaScript, but you can see here, you cannot see here, probably you have some JavaScript inside of this streaming. So this is the main or the main object that I need to investigate more about, because as you can see here, the left is big. So we need to investigate and need to look in more deeply about the object 13. Remember, we have a 15. Let's see, let's continue to see here object 12, 14, we have other one, and object 15, we don't have any others important informations, okay? So let's investigate more about the object 13. Let's go through using another tool. So now we're using PDF TK. It's a handy tool for manipulating PDF. Usually, you can use these tools to merge a PDF documents or collate PDF pages, scan, or you can using this specifically tool to uncompress and recompress page streaming. Remember, I need to look in more deeply for object 13 that I have here, the streaming. So I will execute the PDF TK, I will set the CV, I will set the output, because remember, I would like to pick up all those information, put in some file. In this case, I will generate this output for a dump, and I will execute the uncompress functions, because I would like to uncompress all those informations inside of this specifically streaming object 13, right? And when I execute that, take a look what I found. Wow, this is the first technique used by the attacker. We have here the JavaScript obfuscated, right? So this is the first technique used by the attacker. So I found here basically this is the functions that will be executed when the victim machine open the file. Remember that, okay? So when I execute this analysis, I thought, so I have a JavaScript. If I have a JavaScript, maybe I have some applications, right? So if I have some application, I need to connect this to the internet. So because of that, and I looking more deeply about the code, and I found this evil parameter. So I thought, so I can try to manipulate this specific file. So I create this HTML using the script. So my idea is to print this information. To print this information, I need to rewrite this specifically JavaScript, right? So I'm using this specific evil parameter, and I change that not to evil, but to document, right? To rewrite this information in some web application, to use in some browser, for example, Firefox or Google Chrome, to write that. So that's my idea when to try to disobfuscate that. And if you see here, I don't know if it's maybe it's small, but inside of these parentheses, you can see here there's some standard, you know, about some standards here, like numbers, letters, and percent. Numbers, letters, and percent. You see this standard behavior, not behavior, but the standard things. And here you can see different colors. Maybe something are happening here. So first of all, I rewrite it here using this evil parameter, right? So this is the simple setting here, the evil, and a equal, and I change here this specifically variable. Now actually is a variable, right? So using this a variable to changing that to rewrite, and I changing the permission for a sample to the sample to try executing this in some browser, right? So I give the permission, and after that I call that in the Firefox browser. And take a look what happened now when I execute that. So when I printed these informations, boom, we found a payload. What is a payload, Filipi? Payload is specifically a package responsible to downloading the victim machine, and this payload is responsible to executing a callback to a command and controller from the attacker. So I have here the package responsible to reverse shell of the attacker, right? So remember, we have here, let me pause the video here. We have a PDF file. Inside of this PDF, we have a JavaScript obfuscated. Remember, inside of the PDF, we have an open action. This open action is when the user click in the PDF, automatically will be executed this specifically JavaScript obfuscated. And this JavaScript will execute what? A download of the specific payload. It is inside of this. Remember, inside of the JavaScript obfuscated, we have a payload. This payload will be in the victim machine, and this payload will be responsible to execute a callback to a command and controller to the attacker server. Okay, So nice. I could finish the investigation here, but I continue to looking more deeply because if I have the payload, I can try to find the CNC from the attacker. So now I have here, I copy all those code, those standard behavior, not behavior, but standard things that I mentioned, letters and percent and numbers, remember? And I copy all those informations and I put inside of this payload file. And after that, I execute sed to cut this percent information. Why I do that? Because here we have another technique used by the attacker. Here, the attacker using UCS2 encoding techniques to encode this specifically payload, right? So not the payload, the attacker using this specifically encoding to encoding this communication or these informations about their HIM IP address. Okay, so let me move forward to show you in the Windows, because I execute some commands in the Linux machine. So I'd like to show you the same information in the Windows platform, just to compare both of them. So here you can see, here is the JavaScript obfuscation, the evil parameter using this specifically variable A, as I show you here. Okay, here is the payload, the var payload. I will copy this, remember, percent, letters and numbers, and I passed here in another tool called Mozilla, as you can see here. So I will basically pass here, and I using these decoders. First is generate a UCS2, as I mentioned, to convert that to a hexadecimal. Remember, this is basically the encoding technique using by the attacker. So first of all, I will decoding that and generate a hexa information, a hexadecimal. I convert in UCS2 to hexadecimal, right? The next steps, I generate that, as you can see here, basically is cut all those percent. Is the same behavior that I using in the sed. Remember that when I when I put in this command sed in the Linux machine, and I made here the same behavior, okay? Because this is the hexadecimal text, okay? And after that, I using here the ext2 file. I generate a binary file specifically, right? So as you can see here, I generate here the hexa file binary, as you can see here. I called CNC. This is the name of the file, CNC doc binary. And after that, I using, take a look, this is James Stevens suite. I call the short search to try and find some HTTP protocol inside of this specifically binary, and take a look what I found here, the CNC from the attacker. Wow, nice, very nice. So now I have here the IP address from the attacker. Remember the payload responsible to executing the callback communication to the CNC. They using the encoding techniques, and inside of that we have a IP address from this specific attack, and this IP address is from Estonia. Okay, so I finished here my presentation. So usually the people ask me about what kind of book I recommend you. So here you can see 4 books from Pact. It's very nice books. By the way, I have these books. It's very nice content you can find. The mastering more analysis techniques, or if you'd like to see more about the hunting, you can use the threat hunting and the practical and threat intelligence, more focus and threat intelligence. Okay, and I would like to say thank you for stay with me during these presentations, and if you have any questions, so please let me know. Once again, thank you.